Well, thank you so much.
Good, good, good. I have some questions, and I
Okay.
haven't I haven't watched the fourth season yet, so there's no worry about spoilers.
Okay.
Um, my sister-in-law, I have to tell you, and I told you this last time, but you won't remember probably. My sister-in-law and her husband just love Manifest. Like
All
it's
right.
it's the only show they watch, I think. So
Wow.
yeah. So and I like it, but
Awesome.
I'm just, I have to watch so much. I'm always behind and everything. But
Right. Well, tell them I said thank you.
I will. I'll make sure they see this video. So my first question is this really the last season?
Is this really the last season? Well, as far as I know, this is really the last season. We wrote these episodes to the very end of the journey. We're going to answer everyone's questions by the time you get to the end of the next block, right? So we're releasing block one right now. Block two will come out sometime in the spring, I suppose. And we've finished shooting those episodes. We just finished shooting episode 420 a couple of weeks ago, and we'll be editing those for the next couple months. And we've taken the story all the way to the end. We have hopefully answered all the questions people are wondering about. I love these characters. I would love to keep telling stories about them. So you never know what the future holds. Uh, but um, but this this should get us all the way to the end of the manifest story.
So if it's a huge hit and Netflix says we want more, you can write more.
Well, these are great, complicated characters, and I'd be delighted to take them on another journey. So you never know.
Okay, cool. Do you think fans will be happy about the ending?
I hope so. I hope so. I think that I personally think it's very satisfying. The few folks who have either hardly anybody has seen the episode because it's still in the edit bay and we're tinkering with it. But those who read the script, of course, the actors and the crew, maybe they're too close to it, but
Mm.
the insiders all felt that it was very satisfying, and it's very powerful emotionally. I think that it fulfills the promise of the manifest pilot and the initial premise. And there's a lot of camps among our fandom.
Mm.
People rooting for this couple, people rooting for that couple. Uh, um, People, everybody has their favorites in terms of the characters. And then on the science side, people have their theories, and on the mythological side, people have their theories. And um, you know, we make choices that I think a lot of people are going to be able to say, I was right, and other people will say, we wrap it up
Can't
in a way
please everyone.
where we wrap it up in a way that won't please everyone, right? Because to the extent that certain people were right, I guess other people will feel like they were wrong, but we're not so specific and so on the nose that I think people are going to walk away saying I was wrong.
Mm.
There's a level of ambiguity that will allow people to draw conclusions, and but not so ambiguous that I think people are going to feel like, well, you didn't give us answers. You
Yeah,
know what I
right.
mean? So I think we kind of reach a happy medium where people will be able to draw conclusions in a way that they'll feel like we created closure. Um, so we'll see.
Okay.
I'll be curious. I'll
Right.
be curious to see what people feel.
So why was the last season split into two parts?
We still had a lot of story to tell, and I think that Netflix wanted to honor that, and therefore were very generous in giving us 20, and which I very much appreciated. I would have taken as many. I would have happily taken as many they were willing to give us.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we needed a certain amount of time to shoot all these episodes. I needed time to write all of them, and I needed a break in between. It would have been too challenging for us to kind of write 20 in a
Sure.
nonstop, write and shoot 20 nonstop. So we needed a break, and we took a break. Our writer's hiatus wasn't actually really a hiatus. We needed a production hiatus so that the writing could continue and catch up. And
Okay.
I think that's probably why airing them was split up in two.
So my sister-in-law's favorite character is Jared, and she wanted to know why we saw less of Jared in the third season.
Interesting. Not by design. Not by design. I think, you know, what did we see less of Jared? If she says we saw less of him, then I believe her. I don't know. I think that
The story.
the story just led us in certain directions. We were developing the Angelina character more predominantly, and that probably just squeezed some other characters off the screen a little bit, but not at all by design. We love Jared.
Okay. And I posted on a couple of Facebook groups about Manifest and on Twitter, so I have some questions from them. Okay. Several people asked, "Do you have more projects in mind after this one finishes?" So they want to follow you.
I love that. I love that. When Manifest was canceled, I, of course, as you know, anxious television writer, you know, started thinking about, well, what's next, you know. And yeah, I have a couple other ideas I'm always thinking, and started developing another supernatural drama, which has proven successful for me this time around. And you know, I started working on that when we were no more, and then you know, I had to put my pen down on that when we were saved. And you know, when this wraps up, maybe I'll turn my attention back to that, see what I can do with that. Great. I'll keep them posted.
Yes, definitely. Beth asked, "Do you feel that you had to leave out anything important to finish it in 4 seasons rather than more?"
Yeah, good question, Beth. I don't think so. You know, the thing about the combination of our show being a relationship drama, a mythological drama, but also a police drama, allowed us to be somewhat flexible in our storytelling, and in particular on the procedural side of the show. If we had had an extra season, we probably would have spread out our mythology more. In other words, made it thinner and dropped mythology clues over more episodes. That is to say, mythology clue in episode 3, save the next mythology clue for episode 6, another one in episode 10, and in the meantime, told more cop stories. You know what I mean? In between, told more police stories in between. And as a result of our having less episodes, we probably told a few less procedural cop stories and inundated you with more mythology stories, and packed them in a little bit more, you know, gave you more mythological clues, you know, episode 4, episode 6, episode 8, episode 10. And so you probably got more bang for your buck on the mythology and science side. And so we didn't drop anything inherent to the overall mythology of the show. We might have just denied you a few cop stories.
I think my sister-in-law suggested that you should have a spin-off with
Yeah.
as a police show with Michaela and Jared.
Yeah,
So,
I hear that.
so Jan asked if you have a favorite episode. That's a tough one, I know.
Episode 7 in this new block, uh, directed by Josh Dallas, as a matter of fact, uh, is pretty good. There's a real, I mean, you'll have seen it probably by the time you watch this. There's a really adorable story between Cal, older Cal, Ty, and another passenger named Violet. It's pretty irresistible. And then there's some other cool stuff happening around that. But that story between Ty and Violet, which leads them to a karaoke bar, it's pretty hard to resist. Does it make it my favorite episode of them all? I don't know, but that's not even like the lead episode of the episode, the lead story of the episode. Is it? Maybe it is, but it's pretty great.
Oh, good. More karaoke is always good for me. So,
right?
Love it. So this, sometimes people don't use their real name on Twitter. So this guy's Twitter username is Manifest Stoner.
Oh yeah, I know Manifest Stoner.
Oh, you know him. Okay, good. He asks, how do you maintain levity in a show where the emotional stakes are so high?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've probably noticed that I really enjoy my levity. Whenever there's like a stupid joke, I probably wrote that. And sometimes we kind of cross the line and go a little too far. Often the other executive producers will go, should we edit out that line? Like, does that feel appropriate given how grave the rest of the episode is? And I'll say, no, we got to leave that in because sometimes even on a really sad day, funny stuff happens.
Yeah.
So that's why the character Troy exists. That's why the character Egan exists. I just have a soft spot for dumb jokes and not so dumb jokes. We have some really funny jokes. Yeah. But in all seriousness, I think that's how we get through life.
Sure.
It's like, you go to a funeral and then you go back to the person's house and you make each other laugh, right. And that's how we get through life.
I like that classic Mary Tyler Moore episode where they all start laughing at
right. Exactly.
But any show has to balance the drama and the comedy.
You have to. You have
to. Yeah.
That's really important to me. So we balance it just by throwing it in there and seeing what works. And when it does, we let it stick.
Okay. And Christina, spelled without an H, asks, whose character has changed the most in season 4?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me think for a second. Olive changes a lot. Olive is kind of forced by circumstance to become mom. Mm-hmm. And Luna did a great job at taking that on. And I thought that was a really exciting arc for her to have to really be the grown-up. And that was cool for us to write. And it was fun for her to take on that challenge, and she really rose to the occasion.
Great. And Christina with an H asks, of all the character storylines, which one is the one you think will surprise us more in season 4? Similar question.
Yeah. Well, certainly Olives, but let me think if there's another one. Yeah. I know Egan is a supporting player, but he becomes a much more prominent player in season 4, and takes surprising and important turns. So I think that'll be surprising. And if there's anyone else, yeah, for the Jared, someone was asking about how we underplayed Jared. Jared has an important role in this season, and I think really comes through for Jared fans.
Right. Okay, that's fine. You can think of any more, you can let me know.
Okay.
From Sarah, was the death of Pete the tipping point for Angelina's delusion that Eden was her guardian angel? She seemed relatively okay up until that point.
That's a really good question, and I think that's a really good theory. I don't know that we were thinking about that consciously, but looking backwards, I think you're right that that might have pushed her over the top. And she talks a lot about that in series after the fact, in this block of episodes, and in the block to come, in the final block, she will look back with historical perspective, and she talks a lot about how everyone abandoned her. And I mean, maybe it's unfair to say that Pete abandoned her. He didn't try to abandon her, but one way or another, she was kind of taken away from him, or he was taken away from her, and so it's a sort of abandonment. And that was pivotal in her descent into darkness, wasn't it? So I think that's a very good point.
Okay, I just have one more question, and you sort of answered it before when we were talking about changes, but Rail, Rail, asked, why did you kill Grace?
Yeah.
So I think, why did he kill Grace? Why?
Yeah. Well, you have to kill your babies sometimes for art, and it was the most terrible thing that we could imagine, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why we needed Angelina to commit the most grievous act that we could imagine, and reciprocally, we needed the Stone family to suffer the most grievous act that we could imagine in order to take the story in the direction that we needed to go. I think I talked about this a bit earlier. I'm getting my interviews confused, so maybe I didn't. But, the ultimate arc of Manifest and the ultimate theme of Manifest is about redemption. And that ties into the idea of forgiveness, right? And for any of us who are spiritual, however that spirituality manifests for you, the idea of personal redemption and personal forgiveness of others, forgiveness of yourself, ties in so inherently to the show. And you'll see that very clearly with Michaela's arc in the final block of 10, and with Ben's arc in the final block of 10. And so in Ben's case, we had to pull him down that rabbit hole to suffer the most insufferable. Is that the right use of insufferable? I don't know. The worst.
The worst way you can suffer.
the worst way you could suffer. Plainly spoken. Yes. Thank you. He had to suffer like no one could possibly suffer, an unimaginable cruelty.
Yeah.
And then see if he had the power of forgiveness, right? Like most world religions speak about. And I think they all speak about it for a reason, right? Because that's the hardest thing that a person can be asked for in life, right? Yes. To forgive the unforgivable. And if you can forgive the unforgivable, you can do anything. And we see that we will see that asked of Ben in regard to Angelina, and we'll see that asked of Michaela in regard to forgiving herself, right? She's been trying to forgive herself since season 1 in regard to Evie, and there's nothing harder. There's nothing harder. Anyway,
all right.
That's satisfying.
No, that's good. No, that's a good answer. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your talking to me.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed it, and they're telling me I have to leave now. So thank you so much.
Thanks for your questions.
Thank you, guys.
The rest. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye now. Be well.
You too.